This is an event, Diversity Dialogues, welcome, and this is put on by the Women's Activity Portfolio. We at the Women's Activity Portfolio are dedicated to supporting women and their families throughout their lives. And our key objective for this portfolio is to raise awareness about gender equality and gender-specific barriers to both men and women. It's our goal to help people understand and tackle barriers for themselves and their lives. And we're hoping with this event that we can take you deeper so that, yeah, you can challenge some of your own existing barriers. I'm very excited for this space. I'm very excited that we have some incredible speakers that I will give a much better introduction to, but tonight we have with us Farhan Dalla, who is a transformational trainer. We have Faizan Sabzali, who is a integrational coach and works specifically, or actually works a lot with men's groups in the Ismaili space. And we have Mike Mosalam, who is a award-winning movie producer and storyteller and specialist in Muslim stories. So we're very honored to have all of these guests and mental health professionals, but mostly we're very honored to have each one of you. So thank you for taking the time today to join us. And without further ado, I am going to now pass on to Farhan, and Farhan is going to create space with us doing some body-mind work, and I'll be quiet now and hand it over to Farhan.
Great, thanks everyone. It's nice to meet everyone here today. I'm gonna take you through a sort of a guided meditation to help get grounded and set the tone for today's event. So let's have you all just start by taking a deep breath in and closing your eyes. And I'm gonna ask that you just sit and relax into your chairs and just listen to the sound of my voice. And with every breath, I'm going to ask you to tap in and tune in and dive into your inner space and just drowning out all of your exterior worlds with the exception of the sound of my voice. So let's begin by taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, tap in, tune in, and dive in, and bring your awareness to your chest. And there's no effort or trying here. It's just holding the intention. And notice as you bring your awareness to your chest area that you feel a sense of presence, stillness, and peace. And then take a deeper breath, deeper than the last one. And as you exhale, tap in, tune in, and dive in. And notice your heart and where it occupies space in your chest. Bringing awareness to just your heart. And as you do that, notice that the feeling of presence and stillness and peace starts to magnify. And then take a deeper breath, deeper than the last. And as you exhale, tap in, tune in, and dive in, and get so still that you can hear and feel your heartbeat inside of your chest. And as you do that, notice that the feeling of peace and presence and stillness magnifies even more and starts to fill your entire body. And again, take a deeper breath than the last. And as you exhale, tap in, tune in, and dive in. And bring your awareness to the very center of your heart. And there resides the home of your inner being, the deepest part of you where all truth resides, and the source of all your peace and stillness and presence. And all of this is available to you at any time just by breathing in deeply and bringing your awareness to your heart. And as you continue to breathe, staying connected to your inner being, bring your awareness to the center of your feet and your tailbone, and visualize or imagine you're extending 3 cords of light all the way down to the very center of the earth. And at the center of the earth, align with the divine feminine energy of Mother Earth. And just like the way roots extract nutrients and water from the earth, inhale, gather, and draw that divine feminine energy from the earth up through those cords of light. Continue to inhale and draw that energy to the center of your feet and your tailbone, and then draw it up through your legs, allowing all 3 points of energy to come to the base of your spine. And then inhale and draw it up through your spinal cord, traveling through your body and out through the crown of your head. And then extend a 4th cord of light from the crown of your head all the way to the sun, anchoring you to the sun and aligning now with the divine masculine energy. And this time, inhale and draw that energy from the sun all the way down till it comes together, meets, and unites with the divine feminine energy that you drew up from the earth. And as those 2 points come together, inhale and draw it down through the crown of your head and let it settle right into the center point of your heart. And there in your heart space, let's set the collective intention for this group for today, including to make this space safe for each and every one, to express and listen authentically without judgment towards others and especially ourselves, and to have self-compassion and for compassion for each and every one in this group. And now take a moment to just notice any sensations or feelings or any visions or colors that you might be seeing. And then take a deep breath in and slowly open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Farhan, and welcome everyone. So Faizan, as I mentioned, is an integrational coach. He's a dad. He has masterfully run and facilitated large groups. And he's actually the first man who ever thought to invite me as a proud gay male to a men's group. And it just changed the dynamic because for once I felt included as a man. And oh, I think Saima and Saira are here again. So I'm just going to ask my admin team to put them in the waiting room. Sorry about that, Jen. And yeah, so without further ado, I will let Faizan take it and relationships. So Faizan Sabzali, the beliefs that blind us, Faizan Sabzali.
Thank you, Sunny. I wanted to start it by introducing my son, Sajjad, who's turning 12 soon. And he's my inspiration for this work. I've been trying to figure out what it means to be a man. And so he's been that driving force. So recently we moved to a small town in Western Canada. And as we were moving in, he noticed this Subway sandwich store, which I didn't know why he cared for. But there's a story that I actually, around his age, I started working at a Subway store, not out of any necessity. It was just I was bored. I went and found a job. But in his mind, he thought he has to find his role now. He has to give up his childhood and start working. You see, there's a story within our family that men work and men start work early. Some out of necessity, like my father, and some we just feel like we need to work. And you see these stories kind of continue from generation to generation, and they become our belief systems. And for us, those beliefs, the core beliefs, are how I see myself in this world. And when I believe something and when I'm taking action based on those beliefs, that's how I show up in this world. Right. And so some of us, there's good beliefs and there's negative beliefs. And for as many of us, we have different faces that we show up with. I show up with a different face at work, with a different face with my parents, with my wife. It's all always something I'm not. I'm never fully authentic. And so as I went and figured out what I wanted out of this particular conversation, as we kind of figured out how we're going to move forward, that's what drove me to figure out, okay, what is it that I'm trying to be? And so as I looked at the different stories that I had, the different belief systems that I had, I wanted to, again, figure out what it actually means to be a man in this world, man in this relationship. And so I started taking on the different type of learnings. I started sucking up as much knowledge as I could out of books, and started attending courses. And it always, it was always me seeking something outside of me. And from a pattern perspective, what it turned out to be was it never mattered what was outside of me. It was always what I believed about myself in my head, and all of those gears that were turning. You see, I had to go and start taking ownership, and I had to look to see if the beliefs that I own are actually mine. I had to go look at to see what I took on from my parents, both good and bad, what I took on from my society, what that I grew up in, the culture and its expectations of me and how I'm a man. And so as I work on myself and other men, I've identified two main patterns. So the first pattern was that I am not enough. And how that shows up or showed up for me, and especially in my marriage, was I was going to be found out, and my wife's going to leave me, that knowing that I'm not good enough for her. And so what I did was, from a compensation perspective, I took control. Instead of becoming a team and more vulnerable, I became controlling of our relationship. I became controlling of our finances. And I kind of just took on that tough guy role. The other pattern that I've identified is that the world is not safe. That the world is not safe enough for me to actually show up as I am, to show up as I can fully be, because it cannot take me, it cannot contain me. And so what that looks like for many of us, for many men, especially in our culture, is that anger was acceptable, but nothing else. And we were told, figure it out yourself. Figure it out yourself. That's what we were told. And you see, it drives this myth of a lone wolf. There's these myths of Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks of the world, or the Gandhis of the world, who figured it out on their own. They did it. They achieved something. And all of us are kind of going through these phases, through this forest, trying to figure it out on our own. And yet, even with people around us, we feel lonely. We don't feel seen. We don't feel heard. And you see, the truth of the matter is that we're not meant to be going through this journey alone. We're meant to be part of a wolf pack. We're meant to be part of a community that can hold us accountable, that can give us direction. And more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to lead other men as well and show them direction. You see, when we talk about toxic masculinity, sometimes it feels like all of masculinity is toxic. And that's not true, because mature masculinity provides direction, provides strength, provides courage for our families, for our communities. And so we must take action. We must start these dialogues. We must build communities where we can go belong. We must find that for ourselves, to be held accountable, to figure out what it means to be a man for me, not for somebody else. You see, for me, those men in my life have helped me guide my son to find a way to become a man that he wants to be, not something I want him to be. And more importantly, he gets to see the man that I am and not the man I pretend to be. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Faizan. Powerful Ignite talk. And yeah, thank goodness that I'm not alone figuring it out by myself, that I have each one of you here to share in my journey. Without further delay, I will introduce our next speaker. And our next introduction, it could be an event just to introduce him because of all of his accolades. And let me begin. So Mike Mosallam as I mentioned, is a director, a writer, a producer for film, theater, and television. He has currently an award-winning movie named Breaking Fast, which actually I watched, and it inspired me to do my very first entire Ramadan, thanks to that movie and thanks to Mike's story. That movie has been seen in 65 festivals worldwide, winning 18 jury and audience awards. It's available on Apple iTunes and Amazon Prime. He's also done movies named Breaking Fast, which is an 11 times award winner, Ubuntu, which he did with the Muslim Public Affairs Council, and he produced a TLC award-winning series named All American Muslim. If that wasn't enough, Mike has produced and directed more than 100 theatrical productions. He is a proud Lebanese American Muslim, and he's fluent in Arabic. I'm so honored to give the mic now to Mike and Mike Mosallam, Real Muslims, How We See Ourselves. Mike Mosallam.
Assalamu alaikum. What an introduction. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. So much of my life's work has been in and around the narrative of Muslims. I certainly don't need to tell this group, but there are approximately 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. So you can imagine there are 1.6 billion stories to tell. Muslims have made substantial contributions to our lives every day. They help us wake up in the morning. The first pot of coffee was brewed by Muslims in Yemen in around 800 AD. I enjoyed a pot to myself this morning in an effort to show up here today. They help us see better. If anyone else wears glasses like I do, we have the work of Muslim physicist Ibn al-Haytham to thank, and thank God for transition glasses in this California sun. They help us heal. The first modern medical center and teaching hospital, Ahmad ibn Tulun Hospital, was founded in Cairo in 872, and it provided free medical care for all. And this next one really means a lot to me as a music major. They help us sing, some of us better than others. The lute developed into the guitar. The Persian santur led to the creation of the popular keyboard instrument like the piano. And of course, they help us add. Algebra, as we call it, or algebra, is the bane of many, many high schoolers around the world. Sounds pretty great, huh? We have a lot to be proud of. But if we look at who the world tells us we are, you'd see less than favorable images like this infamous street rat right here. You may also turn on a TV and at any point see, I don't know, maybe some oppressed women, abusive husbands, like this one here, played by Alfred Molina and Sally Field in Not Without My Daughter. I don't know if many of you have seen this film, but it feels very dated, and yet, and of course, the infamous T word. We see images like this depicted back to us in Tyrant, Homeland, Jack Ryan, and sadly countless numbers of examples to list. Who don't we see? Where is our version of Black Panther, Captain America, or my personal favorite, Superman, right here? When do we get to see a Muslim superhero don the big screen? When do we get to simply stand on a stage and be an incredible, famous rock star? You know, having people, adoring fans shouting our names, but also simply, when do we get to be loving fathers? It is so natural and so common for us with children to pick up our children, to hug them, to kiss them. When in Film and TV, do we get to see that? When do we get to be dutiful husbands? Carefully, and carelessly, and without much thought, providing much affection to our partners. These are really important images. And the question is, who's right? Are we right in that that's who we are? Or unfortunately, is the world of film and TV right in telling us who we are? Are we oppressed women who have been exoticized, wearing shackles? Are we barbaric men whose goal is to oppress? And the reality is, we get to decide. Beyond who is right, how do we as Muslims begin to believe we are more than what is being reflected back to us on the screen? How do we get to be more than images like this? How do we even begin to believe that we get to forge a path where we believe we are more than this, where we are capable of more than this, where we get to be inspirations like these women right here? And there's really only one way that we get to do that. And that's when we get to reclaim our narrative. We get to say, here's our story. This is the story that we have to tell. And that's the work that's ahead of us. We are the ones who get to decide how the world perceives us. And we need to tell our stories. And I hope you will all do that. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wow, what a powerful delivery of two incredible Ignite